Alive, alive, ho. How's it going, everyone? Anyone watching this back later? Special hello to you. I hope you enjoy having my company. As people tell me, it's usually in the background while they're doing chores. So, and particularly in these times where we're still not particularly able to interact with humans, some pretend interaction, some virtual interaction like this never goes astray. Who's in check? Hello to you, Megaleech. How are you this evening? I was going to, as a cliche, say this fine evening. It has been raining quite a bit here in Melbourne since around the middle of the day, and that it really set in. It's not raining at this particular moment. One of the gaps in the rain, and it's supposed to really set in for the next couple of days. Much cooler weather and rain for like 3-4 days. And hello also to Stella and Strictly Sayer. I hope you are well. A good mix of tropical juices in there. My little fruit punch I've made is like lime and pineapple and what's that stuff called? Sour sop. That's what the Americans call it. As I've said before, and I've mentioned it, I'm pretty sure it's custard apple, and Americans call it sour sop. Just a thing I got from Costco one time. A couple of big bottles that have taken me a very long time to get through. There's still a bit of the second bottle left. It's, of course, Costco's things, big serves of things, and it's often unwieldy. Like, see, that looks good. I do not have this freezer space for that, so I cannot purchase that thing that looks interesting because it's like too large a serving of, or it's just like a multi-pack of something. So again, that kind of looks interesting, but I would never use that many packets of it. So yeah, it's just the way it is. But yes, still, it's a thing. I do get stuff from Costco. I need to. That looks okay. Just testing what my camera, what the visuals look like as we warm up, because I managed to completely screw up the camera settings a couple of streams ago. And then I had very questionable settings for a while. Too dark, too oversaturated. It was a very Trumpian orange color for a while. I think it's kind of okay now. So that's sharp. Anyway, really enjoy when I, because this, it's not a cocktail, but I did mix it. And take a sip and go, that's a good drink. I'm glad I made that drink. Very nice blend of Le Fruits Tropical. Keep me going. I'm going to make a cocktail tonight, though. If you had paid attention to how I titled this live stream, because I often just go like, did anything significant happen on this day? Was someone born? Is this regarded as, National Day of something that I can find interesting? And looking through events in history for this day, in 1944, on this day, I think it was 1944, Nancy Wake. I thought she was Australian. It says she's New Zealand born. And she was a spy for Britain in the Second World War. And on this day in 1944, she parachuted into France to liaise with a resistance unit. She was a badass. And hi, Musical Aviator. How are you this evening? So I shall probably over the course of this live stream, give a few tidbits about Nancy Wake, aka the White Mouse, which is apparently what Les Germans called her. She was like the Gestapo. She was literally the Gestapo's most wanted in France, and they never caught her. Never caught her. And it's like a TV miniseries based on her, I think. Hey, Tate, how are you this evening? And it's not Nancy Wake's birthday. It's just because it's the anniversary of when she parachuted into France. And there's a few particular choice bits I want to say. She was actually married to a Frenchman living in Marseille when the war broke out, and went into both Nancy and her husband went into the resistance. They were in what was called an escape network. It's helping Allied airmen evade capture by the Germans and escape to Spain, which was neutral. And because it was airmen who were shot down over France and parachuted to ground, then because France was Nazi occupied, they're obviously at great risk. So Nancy Wake and her compadres would help British airmen and Allied airmen escape the Germans, which is pretty cool. And that was just the start of it. She did a hell of a lot and is a pretty amazing person. So I'm going to make a cocktail. I'm going to call her there. I did it appears to be there's a bar that it's called the American Bar, has a White Mouse cocktail. And I don't know, it's kind of lame. It's gin. They got saffron gin with lemon juice, honey, and champagne, garnished with star anise. It's probably not a terrible cocktail. It's a bit lame. I think Nancy Wake wants something more full on than that. So, well, they're saying she frequented the American Bar at the Stafford Hotel in London. She was there for 2 years. Most days she enjoyed a gin and tonic at her own place at the bar. If you go to the American Bar today, you'll find a still reserved bar stool for Nancy. And there's a cocktail named after her, the White Mouse. She lived to 98, which is also, honestly pretty impressive. But yeah, I don't know, it's just a little bit lame to me. It's not a very adventurous cocktail. I think Nancy Wake deserves a more adventurous cocktail. Justin got a new phone. Nice. That's always nice. David, do you have a controversial way of thinking about wars? Well, see, the problem is, David, and this is, I remember when I had to explain this to young Ms. Angry when she was about, 5 or 6, and she had a very inquisitive mind, why wars happen. Good morning to you, Heavy Cream in New York. It's good evening for me. I assume you're in the morning of the 29th. It's the evening of the 29th here. Yes, David, basically, I remember my daughter saying, why do people get in wars? Why don't they just say no? Unfortunately, there are fuck of a lot of people who enjoy the concept of going to war and shooting people they have decided they don't like, and they think it's going to be an adventure. So wars certainly aren't always about conscription or the unwilling. There's a particularly outrageous one I remember from the American Civil War. Basically happened because a bunch of fucking yahoos thought this will be fun. And it's just ridiculous. It's so different to say World War I, which was just a fucking fight between the ruling classes of Europe that they ground several million young men into the mud for their petty spat, which is utterly disgusting. I'm trying to think how to search for this. I saw it once. It was like a poster that was recruiting for the South. There's this one, an excursion party for the sunny South, 9 months. Volunteers get paid more than people who get drafted. But basically, I remember seeing this thing. It was like published in a paper or something somewhere in the South. And it's just like, this is going to be fun. We're going to shoot some Yankees and be home for dinner. And it was just fucked. Strictly Sega, American Sniper was ridiculous fucking bullshit propaganda for a murderer. But I don't know, if you want a more realistic and less gross film about how weird it is for soldiers, there's and particularly like modern American soldiers in the US, in the Middle East, there's a miniseries called Generation Kill. And oh god, there was a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. What was that one called? But that was the whole thing with they're actually in danger most of the time, but most of the time nothing happens, so they're really fucking bored. It's very weird. Oh, look, Strictly Sega, that dude that American Sniper was about, he was racist as fucked. He always boasted about killing women and children. He was fucking garbage. That's the movie Strictly Sega, Jarhead. That's the Jake Gyllenhaal one. That's an interesting one for just how frustrating life as a soldier can be. But yeah, American Sniper. That guy was, and you always get these things like the wargasm crowd, the homosexuals, the ones who fetishize killing and war. They'll always refer to him as having the most confirmed kills. That is literally not a thing. That is not a thing any military has ever done. Talk about snipers, confirmed kills. That is not a thing. That's a made-up thing. That's a thing he told people how many people he'd shot dead. He's a long way from being the worst war criminal in the modern US Army, but he seemed incredibly racist and to really enjoy killing civilians who he decided were baddies. Richard Jewell, that's the most recent Clint Eastwood propaganda, isn't it? It's weird because Clint Eastwood is a very good filmmaker from a technical perspective. Like he executes the art of filmmaking, the craft of filmmaking, however you want to see it. He executes it extremely well. He is very good at it. But yes, he's not shy about absolute bullshit propaganda to push his agenda, as so many people do. But I was way back what David said about less wars would happen if people just told the ruling class to fuck off. It's just that people are very easy to suck into it. And there's also the problem, Sarah explained it to my daughter when she was like 5 or 6 and was asking, like, why would people even do that? Okay, well, you know how, there'll be someone in your class who's a bully. And the easiest thing to do is to just stay away from them. Keep clear of them, stay with friends. But sometimes there's someone who's such a bully, they hurt a lot of people and they never stop. And then they get other people to help them hurt other people. And they're not going to stop hurting people and taking things, and they're going to get worse and worse. And you can no longer ignore them. You can't ignore them because they won't go away. They actually get worse every day you don't do something to stop them. And sometimes you have to actually take a stand and fight back. And sometimes that happens at the level of countries, and that's where we get wars. Hey, Adele, how are you this evening? Oh, Annette, you're in a Netflix party. Hello. And you've made a very strong Brandy Alexander. Nice. That was good. Oh, yeah. Stella, yeah, like the people who are racially abusing Asians about the coronavirus, they would very likely cheer on a war. So you can say, I heard... it's interesting you think Eastwood didn't go that hard on the press and Richard Jewell. I haven't seen it. As a story, it doesn't particularly interest me. I just read that he did put some pretty extreme lies in it. Andrew, good evening. How are you? Hope. I suppose it's morning for you. It's evening for me. Adele, you're cold but warming up. Yeah, you probably got the cold weather before us. That sort of weather front normally goes through Adelaide a day before it reaches us here in Melbourne. We're going to be much colder tomorrow, I think. The rain just really started settling in on us right about now. So we've got 3 or 4 days of much cooler weather and lots of rain, apparently, possibly even records for Melbourne, the amount of rain. So apparently all the sort of medium-term weather predictions for this winter is it could well be one of the wettest winters on record. Hopefully it goes to the water catchments. Andrew, 3 a.m. you can't sleep. Dude, I empathize. Well, dude, you hang out here for a while, and maybe my soft and gentle voice will lull you to sleep. Otherwise, hang out and keep company. Andrew and I actually got to hang out. Andrew's in California, I think. Came out to Australia some years ago. We did a road trip. This is with a group of people. It was a group of YouTubers. Road trip down the Great Ocean Road. So this was always fun with lots of the people who are in the chat. I have only ever interacted with online. It's kind of fun when people who I have actually had the opportunity to meet up with in real life are on the chat as well. Stella, you're feeling a bit sooky for turning on the heater today because it was 16. Oh, don't be too hard on yourself. Our central heating, because it's all tied to the temperature, does come on for a little while in the mornings at the moment. Cats love it. It's like they love this time of year when the heating comes on. They can hug the warm air vents in the floor. I think it's brilliant. And if it gets sunny in the afternoons, then they go and find somewhere in the garden to sun themselves. They are sloths who really like warmth. Good evening to you, Safa. David, only about 12 in Tasmania. I think it's not getting... I mean, we've had some surprisingly cool nights the last week, and it's been, up around 20 during the day. But what are we looking at? The lows aren't that low. Like it's saying 8 or 9 overnight, 8 or 9 or 10 degrees. But then it's not getting much warmer during the day, whereas last week we were getting up to 20 during the day, but it was getting as low as like 4 or 5 overnight. So yeah, now we're just getting lots of rain for the next couple of days, and much cooler weather. Still, you're a cat. I think all of us are that thing, but cats have. There's always the thing about cats chasing sunbeams. Cats love lying in the sun. Even the big cats, you always see, Like you always see those pictures of lions on the savannah, just like stretching like, yeah, the sun, man. The sun is so good. That's just, I think cats of all sizes and humans with cat personalities love it. Catherine, you went to the shops to get milk. You found a 5-litre drink dispenser on the side of the road. That sounds suspicious. That sounds mighty suspicious, Catherine. You mean like a big punch thing with a tap on it? I've got one of them. Actually, it's a twin set, 4 litres each. Andrew's nice in Cali. Well, yes, Cali is extremely well known for its pleasant weather, even in winters. And you're well into spring there, so I imagine you are getting pretty good weather. That's very sensible, David, staying in your 4x4 room and just heating that. Why heat the rest of the house when you're not in it? Oh, Catherine's brand new in the box. There you go. Well, you found a treasure on your way home, Catherine. Mine is actually still in the box because I use it so rarely. I've never actually thrown out the box it comes in. It's where is it? It's up there. Probably won't show up when I point at it. Get my birth. Oh no, you can see it. It's in the box up there. That's 2 drink dispensers. I've got glass drink dispensers with iron stand. Every now and then I'll make a punch for a party. Sometimes for a grown-up party. I did do it for young Mr. Angry. He's having a party with his teenage pals a while ago. So every now and then I use it. But, because it's a big-ass thing. It needs to be quite a few people for it to be worthwhile to make a punch. 70s in Cali, and yeah, I'm still no good at converting Celsius. I just know like 100 Fahrenheit's like 40 Celsius roughly. It's not exactly. Please don't waste time correcting me. So Fahrenheit. Oh wait, stop it. 70 is 21. Yeah, okay, that's about what we were having last week. Yeah, and now it's suddenly much colder. So for your mum's town had 77 millimeters of rain. That is quite. Oh, that would be interesting. How much rain Melbourne had today? Melbourne, fine. Bom de bom. That might say rainfall since 9 a.m. Let's see. What's it telling me? Is it telling me? I'm not sure what it's telling me. Okay. Melbourne. What's that? Since 9 a.m. weather pointer map. I can't read this. What is this trying to say? What is this trying to say? Wait, was it? This is ridiculous. I just clicked the thing that said, show me rainfall. Why aren't you telling me rainfall? That's really simple. It's ridiculous. Ugh. I don't want rain radar. I want rainfall. Silly thing. Forget it. You're gonna be difficult on me. It's all just showing up the BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology. What's this one? It's a different one. Details, past 24 hours. 21 millimeters, 14 millimeters. Wait, what does that even mean? Why is it just annoying the crap out of me? Is that 21 millimeters all day? Yeah, that would make sense. So we only had 21 millimeters, which is a decent amount of rain, not as much as 70 millimeters. Obviously, that's a lot. Still not talking about weather in World of Warcraft. 38 mil today. Yes, Andrew, I am working from home. My workstation is just behind me. It's too dark. You can't see it. Got a monitor set up there. And you can see the glass doors there. Look out onto the garden. So I have a view of the garden all day. You got another month of lockdown. We have... we're on the cusp of getting some relaxation of our isolation rules. Like, yeah, we're not allowed to hang out with anyone. All the cafes, restaurants, bars are closed. You can get takeaway, but you can't sit down and eat anywhere. The next round of relaxations, which in different states are happening over the next week or two, as things like, okay, you can actually have a couple friends over at your house, or you can hang out in the park with your family and one or two friends and not have to justify why you're doing it. And then I think we'll be moving towards maybe cafes and restaurants being able to have dine-in again, but with limited numbers of people, depending on the size of the venue. And then I don't know how long they're going to. So you're in construction, Andrew. Yeah, that'd be kind of weird. Like, they would probably want you to keep working, but at the same time, you're meant to be following the rules about proximity. Yeah. I think that a lot of the authorities are kind of turning a bit of a blind eye to, yeah, that construction site's probably not following the distancing rule, but we will let them go. I don't think we'll have any major events, even if we continue to have no significant community transmission. Like basically, they're going to relax a couple of the rules, and if there's no uptick in new cases, they'll relax a couple more rules, and it'll get to the stage where it's like, yeah, okay, you can have a party at home now if you want. Restaurants and cafes can have more people. In a couple, I don't think they'll open. I could easily be wrong, but I don't think they'll open pubs and clubs and bars for a couple of months, because those are quite high risk venues. Like if you get a bit too many people in there. But I reckon by summer, or even into spring, they will have let people go back to bars and stuff. But major events like concerts, big sporting events with crowds, I can't see that being allowed before summer. But what the hell do I know? I could easily be wrong. They might do something. But it's kind of like, relax a rule. If there's no new cases or no sharp increase in cases, open the rules again a bit more and assess what that does, open a bit more. And yeah, if you get an uptick, like a couple of the countries that relax things, like Singapore, straight away saw an uptick in cases. And it's like, oh, okay. Joanne, yeah, it makes sense. There being things, what do you call it? Guesses. David, you raise a good point. It is hard to tell exactly how many people have the virus because a lot of people are asymptomatic. That is the government's next wave. In the next couple of weeks to months, you'll see a huge increase in the number of people being tested. In Victoria, the government's already saying, like, hey, if you have any symptoms at all, talk to your doctor and we'll arrange a test, because they actually do want to get to the stage, because if they can go, okay, we're keeping, the borders are going to stay shut till there's a vaccine, basically, because it's still out of control in so many parts of the world. The borders are going to stay closed until there's a vaccine. But everything else might open. Like particularly, it's like, if we don't get reported cases, but then they're also going to really uptick the rate of testing. The government wants to test basically everyone, as close to everyone as they can. Andrew, in the ghetto, people aren't getting tested. Jesus, in America, they're still only up to like 2% of the population has been tested. In terms of rates of testing per head of population, that is so low. I actually don't know what the number is in Australia. Yeah, there's still noticeably under 2% of the US population has been tested. So there's no way to know how it is. Yeah. The South Vic border isn't shut. 100 kilometers from your mum, haven't been home in 2 months. Damn. Yeah, I didn't mean the between state borders. I meant the national border. Oh, yeah, no, tourism is going to be in big trouble because no one can come in from overseas. But there'll be a big push to have people go on holidays in Australia. Andrew, I got to take a vaccine. I had my flu vaccination today, just the normal seasonal flu vaccination. I'm a little bit worried about the number of people. They're like fast tracking the testing of vaccine. There's two reasons you test a new vaccine. One is to make sure it's safe for humans, like it doesn't have a negative effect, and you can kind of do that very clearly. And what they're doing, there's researchers all around the world, and what most of them are saying is we're using components that have previously been tested, so we know that it's safe. But then the second and much harder phase is the vaccine actually does something to stop you getting the illness. Yeah. So as Megali said, my work organized the testing. So it's free. I just had to go into the city and get tested. How about tracing, Andrew? I'm vocally against. The government here has developed a smartphone app that's supposed to help them trace contacts. So if someone tests positive, it would be easy to find out people they've been in contact with. No fucking way am I installing a government tracking app on my phone. Like, people make all these things like, yeah, they can track you. Yeah, they can track me anyway, actually. But the idea of actually submitting to a government mandated tracing app on my phone, fuck no. Particularly this specific government, with two big points. One is they have a long track record of completely fucking up technology. This is a simple thing. I don't think their app is going to work. Like, it relies on the app being always on your phone, which is not how iPhones work. And they'll be using up your data and fucking using up your battery. No shit. You're getting pushed for a tracing app in the US too, are you, Andrew? Oh, damn. Yeah, that is very rough, David. The aged care lockdown, you couldn't visit your mum before she passed. That is very rough. And that's something a lot of people are experiencing. Unfortunately, yeah, I know it's happens for iPhone, and that's like more than half of smartphone users in Australia are iPhones. And so it's not going to work for a fucking start. And second, this government is completely untrustworthy. They've got really extreme authoritarian tendencies. We've got multiple examples of them abusing police powers to persecute their political enemies, like multiple. This is an established track record. This is not me being paranoid. They have an established track record of being absolutely incompetent with technology and being very fucking authoritarian and abusing police powers to persecute their political enemies. So fuck no under any circumstances. I am not putting an app developed by these fucking pieces of shit. And the thing is, I heard that the source code had been reverse engineered. Here's in their hand. That's the thing. It's going to be It's going to be an attack vector for malicious people as well. It's just wrong, wrong, wrong. Do not do it. And if, oh my God, even if you're the sort of naive gimp who goes, I've just government, I've got nothing to hide. No matter what your political persuasion is, if you're okay with your guy doing it, no government's going to give up the power. So when government change hands to the people that you really don't like, they're going to have the same power that the person you don't like had. No one seems to get that. It's like, when their guy is in power and imposing all sorts of rules and blah, 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 they're like, no, they're doing the right thing for me. They're great. They're not going to be in power forever. And sooner or later, probably sooner, someone you really don't like is going to be in power and they'll have that same power. And it's just like, no. Yes. David, the LNP not only loves small government, except when it helps them to fuck people over, they're also very pro-free speech, unless you say something they don't like, and they will try to ruin your life at that point, if not outright criminalize you. Andrew, what's happening in meat production places? I have not heard anything specific recently. In general, I've heard meat production places in the US can be scary AF, with just all these machines with flashing blades going everywhere. I'm not sure exactly what's happening at the moment. Yes, Stella, that line for people who say they've got nothing to hide, it's a famous quote, hundreds of years old, by Cardinal Richelieu, who was the enforcer for France back in the day. It's a line like, give me any six lines written by an innocent man and I'll find something to hang him on. It's basically, if people in authority want to get you, they're going to get you. It's as simple as that. Oh, that makes sense, actually, Andrew. They're working in too close quarters, so everyone in the meat industry is getting sick. Yep, no, that's awful and predictable. I have heard working in a slaughterhouse in the US is one of the worst jobs in the US, just because like I've been in slaughterhouses. They smell terrible because of the offal and whatnot from the slaughtered animals. But a lot of the American ones have these automated slaughter lines with these bloody robot knives slashing and using really heavy industrial cleaners to bleach all the equipment. And people, they have fatal accidents all the time. People fall into the slicing machines when they're cleaning them. So technically, because the amount of people who fall into the slicing machines and get killed, buying meat in the US, non-zero chance that there's some human content in the meat. Ugh. Andrew, the food chain's breaking. Oh my God, I read an article today. I was interviewing some people who'd been working for the Defense Department here, that they're dealing with national emergency is regarded as that's interesting, Andrew. If someone said to you in the US, dealing with emergencies, dealing with catastrophes, crisis, whether it's a major disease outbreak, a major terrorism attack, a major like cyber crime that say shut down the electricity grid or whatever. If someone told you in the US that was being managed by the army, would that seem weird or scary? With our army in Australia, which is so different to the US one, much smaller for a start, it doesn't bother me. But the intelligence work, the analysis and the planning is all being done by the Defense Department in Australia. And they've done a lot of research. They've shown, because we're so heavily dependent on imported stuff you don't think of, like the chemicals that are used to clean our water, is all imported. So if we were completely cut off from the outside world, 100%, within 3 months, our water supply would be under threat, which is terrifying because once the water's gone, society's gone, essentially. Our fuel would run out in a month, and so there's no transport of any resources around at that point. So that's, and it's like COVID-19's been like a dress rehearsal for something really bad happening. And that's one of the changes. Catherine, you wanted to punch Rob in the face. You're a meanie. I'll hold him down. That's okay. I just ignore you. But yeah, this article was fascinating, the degree to which we are so vulnerable, and it needs some really radical changes to prepare for the next catastrophe, which is almost certainly going to happen. Holy cow, Gecko, having a break as a massive thunderstorm rolls through. Yeah, I was getting rain, but not a thunderstorm. We do get the occasional hail and impressive storm. Sydney is far more prone to spectacular storms than Melbourne is. And of course, once you get up the tropical north, you actually get tropical cyclones. And boy, yes, Stella, that is a good point. If a really bad virus, we're so fucked. Yeah, it's interesting. Our current, it is a crisis, even though we're managing it fairly well in Australia so far. It is a crisis, and it is going to have very long-term, far-reaching effects, and we don't know all of them yet. But there's a whole bunch of good things that could come out of it. I just really worry that with the clown show that's in charge at the moment, they will absolutely take all the wrong lessons. They will take the worst lessons, and they will make the absolute worst decisions as a result. I mean, it really highlights that we need more things to happen in Australia. Oh, Gecko, they're starting to reopen restaurants in the area. It's going to be nice. I really, really worry that May is going to be a bad month for the US. April was a bad month. I really worry that May is going to be so much worse. I got to, it's this self-centered thing, man. I got a lot of, through the internet, I got a lot of friends in the US. I do not like to think of my friends going through a really rough time. But God, even places where I don't know anyone, when you hear how bad it is getting or could get or is going to get, it's like, damn. It's like really, really the potential downside to the next year is really fucking bad. Italy was apparently talking about, hey, yeah, let's just open everything again. Robert, wasn't there an Australia for Australians campaign in the past? Wrong way. Well, yeah, it's like, what I'm saying is not a xenophobic thing or a racist thing. It's literally saying, certainly for the last 20, 30 years, 40 years even, we've been pushed, no matter who's been in political power, we've been pushed into this neoliberal bullshit of, profit, industry, cut costs, push profits up. That's hurt 98% of the population and vastly improve the wealth of 2% of the population. Oh, yeah, Robert, absolutely. Yeah, no, we need more things to be done in Australia. We need, it's extremely clear we need to invest in a manufacturing base. See, the thing is, like, countries go, I can't make a big enough profit. You know what? the idea of the constantly growing profit is bullshit and is going to exterminate humanity. We have to go back to, we need sustainable profit. We need sustainable business. We need sustainable ecosystem. We need sustainable country. And this is laying starkly out in the open. The current situation is not sustainable. Like, dirty, bleeding heart lefties like me have been saying for ages that, just environmentally and societally, it's not sustainable. It hurts too many people, it hurts the environment. But from a capitalistic point of view, it's not sustainable. You can't maintain capitalism in this form because it's eating itself. If you want to maintain it, you've got to get back to not profit at all costs, but sustainable. I mean, like, hey, Robert, long-time viewer, first-time caller. Nice. Thanks for joining in the chat, man. Yeah, Gecko, work from home should be a much bigger thing. Now that we've established that we can do it, it should be a much bigger thing. Because, again, companies will save a huge amount of money if they work out like, oh, okay, actually don't need all this centralized infrastructure. You only need people here half the time. And, it's good. Ugh. Yes, Stella, as the union said 40 years ago, moving all the manufacturing offshore was a bad idea. They weren't just self-serving. It was a bad idea. And you're right, Safa, CEOs want a bigger paycheck even when they're getting 1,000 times more than the average employee. We've got to move from, and this is where the word sustainable has to apply to capitalism and business, not just the environment, because then you get more conservative people get upset. Like, you want to kill business? Go like, no. What would you prefer? A company that generates a huge profit for a tiny number of people and causes immense damage in the meantime, and that company goes out of business in 10 years, or a company that employs a lot of people, is fair to them, has a consistent level of profit, and is still here in 100 years. Again, your neoliberals go, no, the first one, profit, growth, things have got to grow. They've always got to grow. It's like, no. All a company has to do to keep going is to make $1 in profit a year. So long as you're in profit, you keep going. It's not that simple. Before anyone says, oh, what if there's a downturn and blah, 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 you've got to have some, capital in reserve. Yes, you do. Same as we find out, we've got to have fuel in reserve. We've got to have chemicals in reserve. We've got to have food in reserve in Australia. We have to get much better with our infrastructure. We have got to stop spending money on urban roads and start spending money on better rail networks. And I'm not just talking about commuter trains. I'm talking about intercity freight rail networks need to be much, much better. What's my opinion about wage theft? It should literally be a crime. At the moment, it's an accounting misdeed. It should be a crime. The executives at companies should be legally liable for wage theft, and there should be jail time attached to it. When you find all these people who are stealing millions and millions and millions of dollars, it's not an accident, it's a deliberate pattern, and they're going to keep doing it until they suffer meaningful penalties. And as you say, people at the executive level need to go to fucking prison for overseeing an empire that steals. That's the thing, Robert. Yeah, a crisis contingency plan. We have to get much better at planning. Yeah, see, that's a problem. Safi, you're mentioning accidents on Northeast Rail, people died, trains derailed. It's been deliberately starved of funding, and the money's gone into roads. And we fucking need to be much, 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 much smarter with infrastructure, because we've been stupid as hell for decades now. Again, just this pursuit of short-term profit and short-term growth at the cost of everything else is absolutely ridiculous and has to stop. Oh, you've seen the road trains. That's in some of the more remote areas. The trucks, we don't really call trucks lorries. I think my parents did. The Brits still call trucks lorries. We call them trucks. The road trains, you get them in some of the remoter areas. And yeah, they're apparently freaky as hell. I've never really encountered one. The biggest ones I've seen have been 2 trailers, but yeah, some of the big road trains, which I think they're usually transporting cattle, because they can't stop very quickly. They also can't steer very quickly. Stella, oh yeah, out in the mining towns, yes. Road Train Central, yes. That would make sense. Yes, Robert, we need a push for more use of rail for transport, which is not saying kill trucking. Trucking is a bit more nimble and a bit more flexible than rail, but trucking shouldn't be long haul. Long haul should be trains. Trucking should be from hubs to, they should be the spokes and the big wheels, like rail hubs where stuff goes and trucks take it out from there. Not truckies driving from fucking Melbourne to Brisbane. That doesn't make any sense at all. It's not good for the truckers. I mean, it's a job and all, but it's not good. It is not a good job. It's not a really sustainable job. It's not a particularly safe job. I'll probably get beaten up by some truckies now. Yeah, 3's I agree, Gecko. Two trailers are common. 3 be a bit freaky, but I mean, how big are the road? I'm going to see if I can find some good Road Trains Australia. That sounds it. What the fuck? Sorry, I just saw a really long one. That's what she said. God, even most of the pictures are of 3-trailer road trains, and they look horrifically big. God, once they get to 4, that is absolutely freaky. There's a Facebook group for Road Trains Australia. Where their photos. The photos are what I want to see. Freaky photos of road trains. Yeah, they're most... Okay, there's a video that's shown up here. I'll see if I can share it. The world's longest truck. It's on YouTube. I think I'll be able to share it with you. Oh, Jesus, what the fuck is this? That's a 3 one. I'm going to try and... Yeah, most of the road trains are like 3. This apparently had just a freakishly huge number of... I think they might have lied in their thumbnail, because it seemed to suggest a truck with like 10 trailers. I think that might have been a lie. I think they might have been lying. Yeah, I think they were lying. But yes, have I ever driven the Outback? Not really. A lot of country areas. Yeah, and I've never really encountered road trains on the way. So yeah. So how's Aidsy going? Probably not well. I haven't heard from him, so I don't know for sure. Robert, you like my stash? My stash? I always get it wrong. Yeah. Yes, I gotta come up with a drink. Dubbo's kinda outback. You go further west than Dubbo, you're definitely outback. Yeah, because there's not much when you go west to Dubbo. Very small towns, and then you like hit Burke out on the border. No, Broken Hill. What was I saying? Burke, Broken Hill. There's not much between Dubbo and Broken Hill, basically. And then you go past Broken Hill, and I mean, you're in the desert a long time before you get to Broken Hill. It's Mad Max country. Can we go find the Fuckawee tribe? But yes, you get sort of outback areas of Queensland, New South Wales, Northern Territory, South Australia. Ooh, still getting stuck behind one of the giant dump trucks. Yeah, because the big trucks, particularly in mining, they're not just long trains. They're the freakishly large trucks that are like several stories tall. It's very, very, very freaky stuff. How large? Yeah, it's like you can find just the weirdest photos and videos if you go looking up, largest vehicles, largest trucks, largest boats and stuff. Humans make some friggin' amazing things. Not always good things, but amazing. Oh, is that from Priscilla, the Fuckawee tribe? It's probably very poor taste, but I don't remember. So long since I've seen Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which was a great movie and I loved it. I'm sure it's got a lot of incredibly dodgy stuff in it. The Rescuers Down Under. I have so long since I've seen it. I couldn't honestly answer how much of the terrain they got right. But yeah. Yes, I've seen those trucks, the huge super trucks. They take up entire multi-lane roads. Like, they're just, and that's when I looked up that video of the biggest road train. It had a bunch of large vehicles, like large things being moved. Speaking of which, I finally watched the movie recently, The Aviator. Leonardo DiCaprio playing Howard Hughes, and Howard Hughes was a very interesting and troubled person, but he had very big plans with regards to aviation, and he actually developed the first Hercules aircraft, an aircraft designed. It's like they were saying it was like a transport boat with wings, and to which people basically thought it wouldn't fly because it was so absurdly large. They had to get it to the coast. The first Hercules was a seaplane because there was no runway long enough for the seaplane, so they had to actually launch it in open water. But the parts of it were so fucking huge, there was a whole logistical exercise to move it from the construction site in pieces to the coast, to then be assembled at the coast. And of course, Hughes was vindicated. The Hercules did fly, and of course, the US Air Force still uses later generation Hercules aircraft, and they remain freakishly fucking large, but we have longer runways now that they can take off from. Big bloody flying bricks they are. And it's really funny watching this movie where the sort of payoff was the Hercules flying. I just had the Midnight Oil song from the late 80s stuck in my head. Here comes the Hercules. So I had to go and play it after watching the movie because it's on YouTube. So to get it out of my head, I had to play it on YouTube and actually listen to it a couple times because it's a very catchy song. and just to get the earworm out of my head. Yes, Gecko, SM C-130, C-17, C-5, the big cargo planes. They must be the weirdest fucking things to fly because they're so heavy, and they would maneuver so slowly. You'd have to be such a fucking specialized pilot to fly one of them. Oh, okay. Neat bit of aviation trivia. The Hercules these days don't need long runways. They have rocket-assisted takeoff. God damn. Yes, the Hughes Hercules is the progenitor of the Lockheed C-130. They get off the ground and go almost vertical. Again, that must be really freaky to have something that heavy. The rockets must just fucking push you back into your seat. Something fierce, like the G-forces. Strictly Fair, I was a pretty big Midnight Oil fan. I only saw them live twice. A lot of their records, and in my case, because of my age, I mean records. I got the vinyl. I wasn't into them really early. First time I saw them live was for the Red Sails in the Sunset album, the tour for the Red Sails in the Sunset. I saw them at the Horden Pavilion for Red Sails, and that was pretty exciting because I was still a boy from Dubbo. I was still at school. I made a trip to Sydney specifically to see Midnight Oil. So that was a bit of an adventure for me, quite honestly. And I saw them once more when I was at uni. But yeah, they got videos of it on YouTube. I think I do want to see it actually. How the C-130 takes off. Musical Aviator, a 747 simulator, very responsive to get a bank started. So much inertia trying to stop the bank. Strictly Sega, you saw them when you worked at Wave 8 at the MCG. I forget where the second venue I saw them was. I think it was like a club type venue. It's not as big as the Horden Pavilion was a big, sweaty, westy, real old school Midnight Oil fans going right off. And I was right up the front. Getting crushed. There's really, really, really getting crushed up the front. So that was fun. And, going half deef. So, finish my fruit juice. What a growing boy needs. I want to make a Nancy Wake cocktail. And there was, like I said, there is one named after her called the White Mouse. And I just think it's kind of wussy. There's gin and lemon juice and honey and champagne. It's like a white lady with champagne. Not really. But look at other like spy themed one. There's one that's like mezcal, cherry brandy, lime. This one's got grappa, chartreuse, maraschino. Thinking, what will I do? Robert, it's back in my day, we were allowed to gather in the thousands. I'm sure everyone else has been doing that. Every now and then you're watching something on TV, or, whether it's a movie or a TV show or whatever, and there's a large group of people close together, and you find yourself going, that's not right. They shouldn't be doing that. That's not social distancing. Oh, you've been on a C-130 and C-17. Were you military or was that as a civilian? Robert, you like Baileys and Chambord, jam donut. I don't actually have any Chambord. Safa's never been to a concert. Well, you won't in the immediate future either, my friend. I'm thinking... okay, for France, it's got to have some cognac. Oh, and I've got to why I think Nancy Wake is awesome. So, as I mentioned at the start, she was living in France when the war started. After the fall of France to Nazi Germany, she was working for an escape network that helped Allied airmen evade capture by the Germans. When the Germans found out, she escaped to Spain herself, but her husband was captured and executed. She was married to a Frenchman. She joined special operations in Britain. And it was on this day in 1944, she was airdropped into France, a 3-person team, parachuted to liaise with the maquis groups in the Auvergne region. Probably mispronouncing it terribly. I love this line. She participated in a battle between the maquis and a large German force in June 1944. In the aftermath of the battle, she claimed to have bicycled 500 kilometers to send a situation report to Special Operation Executive in London. So, and they never got her. She was the Gestapo's most wanted in France, and they never got her. She got the George Medal from the United Kingdom, the Medal of Freedom from the United States, the Legion of Honor from France, and also medals from Australia and New Zealand. But this, I'm going to give you the reason. This is the reason I love Nancy Wake. Despite her heroism, all the good work she did in the war, it's this one thing. So she drops in, part of the 3-person freelance team. Wake parachuted into Auvergne province, France. Resistance leader Henri Tardivar discovered Wake tangled in a tree. He remarked, "I hope that all the trees in France bear such beautiful fruit this year," to which she replied, "Don't give me that French shit." That is like the best thing ever. You've parachuted into a war zone. You're stuck in a tree, and a Frenchman tries to flirt with you, and just, oh, don't give me that French shit. It's just angry. What else happened on this day? What's another big anniversary this day? Always so many things happen on days. Safa, different spelling of cognac is a Russian drink. Oh, yeah. And your grandfather was a partisan in the Belarus Freedom Army. Good on him. Gecko, you were military. Okay. Yeah, flying on those bloody C-130, C-17s must be wild. All right, so I'm going to make something up, and it may or may not work. I love this one. It's called the Spy Cocktail. Oh, no, not the Spy one. I've gone left into. I was looking up various things. I ended up with finding one called The Bird is the Word. It's a variation on the last word, which is a very well-known one. It has grappa. I don't have grappa, but I have the Irish equivalent. Poutine. I'm thinking for the UK poutine, and this says chartreuse, and I like chartreuse, and maraschino, and lime juice, and chocolate bitters. I'm thinking I'm going to make it with poutine. Maybe I should put a bit of London gin in for London. I'm going to put poutine, gin, chartreuse, maraschino, and cognac for France, and some lime juice, and a dash of, it says chocolate bitters. I've got chocolate bitters. I think that's what I'm going to do. Just get a half shot of each of them. Robert Smith, I did not panic buy all this booze. I very methodically bought it over about a 2-3 year period. That would be, we worked out that's an expensive bunch of booze, but I spent 2-3 years compiling it. So, yes. If you have a friend's birthday today, wish them happy birthday to me. Is it actually Cook's first visit to Australia 250 years ago? I didn't know that. Okay, so I'm going to try and make this up. I'm trying to think what... I might just do half shots of everything. Yeah, I think I'll do half shots of everything. And then it's not going to be sort of fatal. Okay. So I'm going to need my shaker. And what do you get? Okay, let's get this stuff together. This would be a nice glass for Nancy Wake. Right. Put some ice in it still while I get everything together. Right, so I want a cocktail shaker. Booked in. There's the cognac. Tea and cognac. What else did I say I was going to do? Chartreuse. Maraschino. Maraschino. I don't think I've opened this one actually. Chartreuse. Oh, I'm a little low on chartreuse. So I am not buying any more alcohol till something runs out. Chartreuse might not last much longer. Right. This is cheesy sort of 70s looking bottle, isn't it? Cheap. That's what it was. Gecko, storm's past, you're getting back on the road. Look after yourself, man. Safa, I will absolutely take you to some fine cocktail vendors in Melbourne to get things for making martinis. Wowzers, Megaleech. I knew they weren't the same. Saying the H4, the Hughes plane, had a 97.5 meter wingspan and a C-130 is only 40 meters. Howard Hughes was, wow, he was a guy. That's what he was. Right. I'm going to put some ice in here. Maybe one big bit and some small bits. That's what the professionals do, apparently. So put one big bit of ice in the shaker. Oh my God. Why won't that come out of the... What's happened to the ice cube tray? And some smaller bits. Right. What did I say I was going to put in it? Chartreuse maraschino. I think that's everything I said I was going to put in, isn't it? Poutine. Oh, I did say some gin. Gin. Not using my fancy gin at this point. I'm just going to put Tanqueray London Dry in. Later in the week, I'm going to make drinks with my fancy gin. By fancy, I mean from a boutique Australian distillery. So I'm just doing half shots of each. Half a shot of maraschino. This is a rather viscous one. A cherry liqueur. Give it a bit of a fruity flavour. Half a shot of poutine. Half a shot of poutine. Half a shot of cognac. Vitamin France. Corks make the squeaky pop noise, which is always satisfying. Cognac. What's it going? Gin. Da, da, da. I have no idea what this is going to taste like. I'm just making it up. Live experiments. Yes, the Captain Cook thing, Safa. He was beaten by a few people, by hundreds of years in some cases, like the Dutch who landed on West Australia and didn't like the look of it. Dirk Hartog and his pals. But yes, colonialism was a weird thing. Lime juice. I need to... Still got some fresh lime juice somewhere here. Did I put it back in here? I think I did. Where did I put it? Oh, it's over there. Do it. A little bit of fresh lime juice left. I squeezed myself. Robert, going to hang out with your best mate. Go do a Dan Murphy's run. Yeah. Yeah, hangouts will be fun to do again. Right. Catherine, you're feeling lonely. Okay. That is a perfectly normal feeling at this point. So that's the first thing, that you shouldn't feel bad for feeling lonely or sad, because that's a human reaction. But the one thing for all these weird and troubling times that we're in is this too shall pass. I'm not sure what I think that's an old Hebrew saying. I know it's quite biblical, but it's the thing that it is one of the most useful sayings you can remember. This too shall pass, because no matter how bad something is at a given time, it will pass. But it's also a good philosophy, because if things are going really well, that's also going to change. Everything changes, and I'll say something much more positive. I enjoy having you in the live chats, and so if you ever feel like, oh, this is all too much and it's overwhelming and whatever, I just want you to remember, I really enjoy the interaction with you in these live chats. It's one of the main reasons I do it, so we can have interactions and not feel completely isolated. So I reckon you're a lot of fun. I really enjoy, whether it's either in the text chat or when you've been on cam for some of the sessions. So I hope you take away with it that, as much as it's completely understandable on individual days to feel sort of sad, depressed, whatever, but it will pass. And I just want to thank you for being part of this as often as you are, because you make my evenings better by being part of it. So I really appreciate the fact that you take the time to spend a bit of time here. It makes everything just that little bit better. And Annette's back. Hello. How was your watch party? I'm doing an experiment with a cocktail. Ought to be fun to see what happens. Doesn't that big block of ice make a good noise in here? Okay, that's now painfully cold to hold. That's how you know it's chilled. Oh, I did not get my strainer. Don't need to fine strain this. I just need this one. Get my glass I've been chilling. Yes, deep breaths. Deep breaths, Catherine. You watched the first episode of Freud and drank bastardized brandy. Alexander's good. I'm now going to try a drink I've made in honor of Nancy Wake, the white mouse. Why do people drink cold drinks when it's cold in Australia? I don't know. We just do, and we eat hot food when it's hot. So yes, my Nancy Wake cocktail has Irish poteen, English gin, French cognac, and for no particular reason, I think chartreuse is French too. Chartreuse French? And the, well, it's European. Yeah, it's France. It's another French one, so that's on time. Ooh, I'm somewhat partial to mulled cider, actually. Yeah, Ned's answer. We're Antipodeans. We do everything backwards. Yes, so this is a very European thing to commemorate Nancy Wake in the war in Europe. Oh, she was in Spain. I should have used the Spanish absinthe I've got. That's okay. I'm just going to see what this tastes like. It's interesting. It's certainly not sweet because I didn't put any sweetener in there. Is it really cold if it isn't snowing? Some places get very cold and don't snow, like it's sub-zero. They just don't snow because it's not the right altitude or whatever. It's really interesting. Should I put a sweetener in it? Actually, I could keep up the French thing. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it back in the shaker. Pretty gosh. Back in the shaker. What I have here, I mean, a little bit of vanilla flavor might help it. This is French syrup. Menin. A lot of bars use these. Where did I put my jigger? God, I'm easily distracted. Must be here somewhere. Here it is. I don't know why that was so hard for me to see. Put half a shot of this vanilla syrup in. And give it another shake. Everyone's into the cool weather. Where'd that come from, Megaleech? Faux toes, a toes on prosthetic legs. That's a dad joke. Joanna, you like rosé and cider. There are a couple of Australian ciders I quite like. There's one I've got down here, Flying Brick, from Bellarine Peninsula, out past Geelong. And there's one that's made near where I went to uni, west of Sydney. It's from Orange. And they do a still cider, as in non-sparkling. And I didn't think I'd like it. I was surprised. It's one of my favorites. I probably prefer their sweet. They make a sweet, dry, and draft. And I probably prefer the sweet one. But yeah, it's there for all tastes. Photos. Did you do something with... Oh, right. You have photos of when it snowed in Devonport and you think you're misspelling some photos or fake toes. Oh, wow. You're waiting on your wine via Ozpost. Tell you, as I mentioned on Monday, the couriers who delivered the gin to me, I only ordered it on Friday night. It arrived on Monday. That was amazing. Do they make mandarins, oranges, and orange? Actually, they grow apples and grapes. I don't think they really grow oranges in Orange because it's too cold. Dell wants a damn one. I did get an email from Dan Murphy's. Some of the mailings, they go, "Hey, we no longer have any restrictions on buying spirits." Because, we're all managing and no one was actually panic buying. So they did have a limit on 2 bottles of spirits and wine, which they don't anymore. So, all right. So now this is a vanilla flavor one. Oh, yeah, that's really good. And now I have this tiny urge to put a bit of the Spanish absinthe in there as well. Adele, you got the email too. Okay, so Annette, this is for Nancy Wake. So to commemorate, she was a British. Well, she was New Zealand born, but she was a British spy in France in World War II. On this day in 1944, she parachuted into Nazi-occupied France to fucking mess with the Germans. To commemorate that, this has got, for the London side, it's got gin and Irish poteen. For the French side, it's got French cognac and chartreuse. and French vanilla syrup. And just for a hoot, it's got some maraschino liqueur, like cherry liqueur. But because she escaped to Spain at the start of the war, because my absinthe made in Spain, this may or may not be a good idea. I'm going to put just a splash of the Spanish absinthe in there. And I'm going to stop my stove from buzzing as well. All right. All right. Just got to try and put a tiny bit of El Blue absinthe in here. Ooh, that was amazing. It broke the surface tension of the little bubbles that run there. Those absinthes, my blue absinthe. 80% alcohol. Yeah, Robert, good idea. Don't look at the news portion of the news YouTube feed. It will piss you off. All right. See how much that changed the flavor. It's just like, you probably can't see it, but there's this really neat, just tiny blue film on the top of it. Okay, so Safi, you're asking the difference between Nazi France and Vichy France. When the Nazis occupied France, they said, "Oh, let's still let the French govern themselves," and they basically had like this puppet government of toadies. That was the Vichy regime. So Vichy was the French government under Nazi occupation. They were collaborators. Oh, that one. Robert, yes. China acting like an angsty teens. Although I'm not sure what anyone is trying to achieve, saying, "Oh, we should do bloody legal, bloody investigate China." Like, yeah, the Chinese government handled the outbreak really badly, and in fact, it is fairly clear they deliberately suppressed some of the information. I think because they thought they could contain it, and they didn't want the bad press, and they couldn't contain it, and so the bad press is even worse. But yeah, Robert, they're taking it personally. That's authoritarian regimes do that. They're not good. And they enter the cocktail onto the Make Me a Cocktail website. They do it on the Angry Cocktail channel. Actually, I might even do it. I'm going to do the social media thing. I'm going to do a selfie to go on the oh, that's not what I wanted to do. To go on the Angry Cocktails channel. All right. See if I can get a good photo happening here with my drinks in the background. I'll post that on the socials later. Robert, I have to play the selfie music. What's selfie music? I don't even know. That's the summary music of the elevator. The authorities in China went, maybe if we hide it, it'll go away. It spreads even more. Oh, no. Yes, Megalit, you're right. I needed to be careful not to tilt the drink back. I don't want to tip it on myself. A little splash of absinthe, not bad. I don't know that it needs it. It did need the vanilla. Don't think it really needed the maraschino. I'd have to make it again without maraschino to seem how different that made it. Luke, back for the last 30 minutes. Good to see you, buddy. So, Megalich, you think selfie music's like masturbation music, but less sexy? That's a thought. Robert, you're actually seeing World Health Organization commercials on TV. I don't watch commercial TV, so I haven't seen them. It's a complicated situation we find ourselves in. I try really hard not to be too judgmental of anyone, but some people really ask for it. It's very weird, like trying to constructively think of, could China have done anything differently? With no foreknowledge of what was going to come next. Because we have had various, influenza and related outbreaks over the last couple of decades, and some have been worse than others. Like prior to this, the worst recent one was the H1N1 swine flu. Killed a lot of people, infected a lot of people, and killed a lot of people. Not as much. It's going to fade into obscurity next to our friend COVID-19. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the big question is, how much would China have known? Oh, suffer. Ebola was very bad in a couple of the African regions where it broke out, and it obviously had the potential to be absolutely horrifically bad, and we managed to limit the spread of it. But there's the thing, every time something flared up, whether it was SARS, whether it was swine flu, whether it was Ebola, the people responsible for keeping us safe from these things freaked out every time, because they've just been waiting. They're just going like, oh my God, if something as bad as the 1918 flu hits us again, we are so fucked, because we're not prepared. And world travel is so much faster than it was in 1918. Diseases will spread so much faster. And so that's why they've freaked out every time there's been an outbreak, because, oh God, this could be it. And now it looks like it is it, although a number of research facilities around the world are like, oh, we think we will get a vaccine, which, again, worth noting, will be the first time ever we had a vaccine for a coronavirus, if we get one. We was discussing the other night, people in Oxford saying they're pretty keen that it's going to work. There's researchers in Australia, and they're pretty keen, thinking they're going to work. There are people talking about doing that dodgy form, getting volunteers to say, oh yeah, inject me with a potentially fatal disease to see if the vaccine works. And, they might die. You can say like, oh, young, healthy people are less likely to die. Yeah, but they might die. And yeah, it's only going to be volunteers, but it's just like, ooh, Jesus. But of course there's just so much we don't know about this virus. There are indications it behaves differently in younger people and older people. So maybe they're only going to test they're only going to inject the virus into the people least likely to die from it. But that might mean that you're not getting an adequate test of the vaccine, because this person you injected with it was less likely to get a severe case anyway. So it might not tell us anything conclusive. It's what we're looking at. If we get anything this year, which will be, again, historically, it will be absolutely miraculous. But what we will get, if they say, okay, we've got something that we think is going to work, we're going to mass produce it and give it to everyone, what it will be is something that we're pretty sure is completely safe, won't actually hurt anyone, or, only like a tiny fraction of 1% of the population would have an allergic reaction or something. And we think prevents the virus. We won't actually know. Adele, you're having an early night, exhausted and grumpy. That is fair. I actually had a bit of a nap this afternoon. I don't know if it was a reaction to my flu vaccination, but I felt quite tired in the afternoon, and I just went and lay down for a while, which I haven't done for a while. Joys are working from home. It was a sick bay. I was at work and I couldn't keep working. I had to lie down. I wasn't skiving off. It was necessary to let me keep working. But yeah, if we get a vaccine rushed out, it'll be a two-pronged thing. They'll say like, well, we're really confident this isn't dangerous, and we've got strong indications that it will actually be effective against the virus, but we won't really know until we inject millions and millions and millions of people and see if they get sick, because it won't have had adequate testing. They won't know for sure that it works. I just had my flu injection today. Just normal flu. I didn't see Scummo's thing. 20 questions. That's an awesome idea, Strictly Sega. Let's do that. 20 questions. What's that site called? 20. It was just called 20Q, isn't it? Yeah, 20Q. Okay, so we're going to do a 20 questions. First, we think in American, think in British. I think we want to think in British. Doesn't have think in Australian. It has think in K. Male, Australia, play. Okay, so, wait. We've got to have a theme. Okay, so we can either just 20 questions is pretty simple. You choose something, animal, vegetable, mineral, whatever, and the website asks us 20 questions. Tried to guess what we're thinking. Okay, Simpsons. Okay, I'm gonna go with that already. We're gonna do Simpsons 20 questions. So it can be person, place, thing. What is it we're going to try and get the website to guess? We're doing Simpsons 20 questions. So it can be a character, it can be a place, it can be a thing that was in a Simpsons episode. You can try and get really obscure if you want. Hannah's going for Hans Mole Man. I don't know. The thing that initially pops into my head is an inanimate carbon rod. See, just joining us. Nancy Wake was a badass. Oh, nice. She forced John Howard into paying her hotel bills in London. Excellent. Marge Simpson's hair. That's a good one, Safa, as well. Like Hans Mole Man. What else? If we're going to do a 20 questions, carbon rod, Strictly Sega thinks carbon rod, an inanimate carbon rod. That's a classic one. And it's slightly obscure, but arguably obscure things can be easier for the thing to guess because there's a limited number of things. But Stella, you reckon carbon rod's too easy. Hannah reckons carbon rod's good. All right, we've got a lot of votes in favor of carbon rod now. All right. I'm going to save faffing about. Let's do the rod, an inanimate carbon rod. Okay, 20 questions. Person, place, or thing? It's a thing. Are you smaller than Mr. Burns? Yes, much smaller. Are you common? Okay, the possible answers we can have are yes, no, unknown, irrelevant, sometimes probably doubtful. What's the answer for an inanimate carbon rod? Is it common? Yes, no, irrelevant? I lean towards no. I don't think the carbon rods are common. Certainly only ever appeared once in The Simpsons. Robert Megalich is saying we should do Springfield Gorge. You do if we do another round. Yeah, it was only in one episode. I think the answer would be no, that a carbon rod is not common. I certainly don't have a carbon rod in my house. So I think it's reasonable to say that a carbon rod is not common. So I'm going to go with no, not common. Are you bad for kids? I'm saying no. It wasn't. We can say irrelevant, but I think we could safely say it's not bad for kids. It wasn't radioactive. Or was it? Is it radioactive? Sorry, why would the carbon rod be on the space shuttle if it was radioactive? Okay, I'm in a quandary at the moment. Yeah, got a ticker tape parade for saving the space shuttle. Is it? I need a consensus on, is the carbon rod bad for kids? My initial thought was no, but if it's radioactive, obviously it is. I'm not even sure. Was the Simpsons carbon rod radioactive? Inanimate carbon rod. I don't think the one on the space shuttle could have been radioactive. It wouldn't have been. Yeah, so it's not bad. I think we'll say it's not bad for kids. Not bad for kids. Is it part of the animal kingdom? That's easy. No. Do you make happy hour bitterly ironic? I love the idea that there is something in the Simpsons world that makes happy hour bitterly ironic, but a carbon rod does not. Would you attend Mr. Burns's funeral? I'm going to go with no. Can you be found in the Simpsons house? I'm also going to go with no. Are you a type of toy? That's easy. That's a no. Would you pay attention in school? Also a no. Would someone pay for you? I guess the answer is yes. Would someone pay for an inanimate carbon rod? I suppose the answer is yes. That they don't just exist. People buy them. It seems like a reasonable thing to say someone would pay for an inanimate carbon rod. They don't just, exist in nature. Someone has Megalich, anything's a sex toy if you're brave enough. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to say yes. Someone would pay for a carbon rod. Do you cheat? It did, didn't it? Although it'd have to be sometimes, because Homer's made very angry by the carbon rod, but other people were quite excited by the carbon rod. So it got a ticker tape parade. So it's either sometimes or yes, but no, it doesn't cheer Homer up. So I think it's sometimes. Everyone else got cheered up by the carbon rod, but not Homer. So we have to say a sometimes, because everyone but Homer was cheered up by it sometimes. Are you creepy? Well, no, it's not creepy. It's just a carbon rod. Would Marge touch you with a 10-foot pole? I don't know. Probably. I don't think that's relevant. Does Bart look up to you? Ooh, did Bart look up to the carbon rod? I know a lot of the people at the plant looked up to the carbon rod, and it got a ticker tape parade. A website asks these questions, Robert. Would Bart look up to you? Maybe. Yes, maybe, sometimes. Yes, strictly Sega, you think yes. Bart would look up to the carbon rod. Oh, he wanted to. That's right. Oh, good call, strictly Sega. He wanted to keep watching the rod. So Bart did look up to the rod. Are you colourful? No, it's just carbon. Could Chief Wiggum track you down? My initial impulse is no, because Chief Wiggum is useless. But we can also say irrelevant, because the carbon rod is, well, not a criminal and not a person. So could Chief Wiggum track the carbon rod down? I would say either no or irrelevant. I think that's just irrelevant. Because yes, Luke, a 317 pointing out police stupidity. I think the idea of Wiggum tracking down the carbon rod is irrelevant. I mean, Wiggum can't track down anything, really. I was going to say irrelevant because it's not a criminal. It made a guess at question 18. It knows it's an inanimate object, of course. It's guessed Chief Wiggum's master key, which is, of course, wrong. Wrong. First guess is wrong. Would you make Homer's heart race? Not in a good way. I would say no. Wow. Now it's doing shit guesses. Now it's guessing that it's the head of Jebediah Springfield. That's also wrong. Oh, okay. Here's one I need some help with. My impulse is no. It's asking, are you shiny? Is the inanimate carbon rod shiny? I also remember the episode with the key, Robert. It was a good episode. Bart being friends with Ralph Wiggum. Yes. Got the mythical master key that opens every lock. Okay, Megali, do you think no? I was leaning towards no. It's not shiny. It's carbon rod. Wow. Okay. It's done another guess that's also wrong. It's guessing it's Radioactive Man #1, the first issue. Wrong. Could you be a gift? No. Are you younger than Otto? Unknown. Did you go to school? No. Are you considered successful? Yes. You got a ticker tape parade. Did you survive a week at Camp Krusty? No. Can Homer see you on TV? Might get it now. Although this is question 27, so it's failed pretty badly. Yes. Oh, God, now it's gone I thought it was going to get it. It said the statue of Jebediah Springfield. No. Guessing that it's Mel Gibson. I said it was a thing. That's a really mean thing to say to Mel Gibson. Wrong. Rainier Wolfcastle. Wrong. Wow. Is it one of these? The Duff Blimp, the B Sharps, Flangcrest Enterprises, Darryl Strawberry, Ribwitch, the inanimate carbon rod. Oh, okay. Now, this is a thing that says why it got it wrong. We answered, would Marge touch you with a 10-foot pole? I said irrelevant. Most people said yes to that. Oh, interesting. For Are You Colourful, it said no. Other people have said yes. And I said, would you make Homer's heart race, which I was taking as a positive? And I said no. but other people have said yes, like make his heart race with anger. Are you shiny? I said no. Most other people said yes. Are you younger than Otto? Most people said no. I said irrelevant. Would you survive I thought it said, did you survive a week at Camp Krusty? I said no, and other people said yes. There you go. So a lot of people disagree with me. There you go. Yeah. Well, there you go. It thinks that my answers were different to a lot of other people's, but it didn't get. I want to do Springfield Gorge now. What do I do? Springfield Gorge. It's a place. Springfield Gorge is a place. Are you considered successful? Successful? Gorge? I think that's irrelevant. Are you boring like this question? I don't think so. No. Can Homer see you on TV? Yes. Are you a hangout? Is Springfield Gorge a hangout? I think it could be. We can say sometimes. I think it's either yes or sometimes or possibly or probably or it obviously could be a hangout. Robert, you reckon yes? Oh, because all the kids hang out there. Yeah, the kids hang out. I think it's a hangout. Are Rod and Todd allowed to play with you? No. Are you popular with the old folks? I don't think. I'm going to say unknown. Are you unhealthy for the community? Well, it was certainly unhealthy. I don't think it's generally unhealthy, but it was unhealthy for Homer. I think we should say sometimes. Do you have historical significance? Yes. Can you be found downtown? No. Are you from out of town? Well, it's out of. I'm going to say yes. It's from out of town. Does Bart look up to you? Yes. Bart likes it. Do you like Duff Beer? No. It's a place. Is it a good place for a protest? No. Can you ever relax? Irrelevant. I'm doing this really fast. Are you messy? Oh, sometimes, because Homer goes into it once and it's full of garbage. Are you educational? Sometimes. Would you make Dr. Hibbert laugh? No, I don't think so. Do this really fast. Do you think grammar is not a waste of time? Irrelevant. Do you get prank phone calls? No, doesn't answer the phone. Guessing that it's Las Vegas. That's weird. Wrong. Do people think you're rich? No. Can you be found in Simpson's house? No. Could Bart get to you on his skateboard? Yes. Are you scary? Yes. Oh, there you go. Springfield Gorge at question 25. I just raced through that. It got it at Springfield Gorge at question 25. I raced through that because I want to go to bed now. And I want to thank you fine people for spending time with me. It has, as always, been a pleasure hanging out with you. And I hope to do it again soon, like, tomorrow night. See what happens there. Does it justify why it took that long? I know it just celebrates the fact that it got it right. It's only if it gets it wrong, it justifies itself for getting it wrong. And it got it right. Well, at question 25. So, yeah. So, thank you one and all. Fantastic hanging out with you. Planning on doing it tomorrow. And we'll see where that takes us. But until then, you fine people should take care in these weird and strange times we find ourselves in. We all need to take a little bit of additional care of ourselves and come back and hang out again tomorrow. Until then, take care. I will see you later and say